starting it just a little early so I can get the links out to fucking social media. Just 1 second here. Let's see. Come on. Dumb thing. Pop over here. All. As you can tell, I'm not exactly great at this because I don't have a fancy bunch of people doing it for me, but we gonna get there. Share. Give me the link. Cool. Just about done. News. Time to read the news. Let's see, we're going to go ahead and delete that. Next. Story. Group. Post. Okay. Hey, look at that. Record time. Audio still sounds good. Cool. Alrighty, first up we have Ukraine and US agree on framework for an economic deal. Look at that. Steps towards peace. The world is healing. In Kiev in Ukraine, Ukraine and US have reached an agreement on a framework for a broad economic deal that would include access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. We China now. Look at me, I am the China now. 3 senior Ukrainian officials said on Thursday. The officials who are familiar with the matter spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. That's sketch. One of them said that Kiev hopes that signing the agreement will ensure continued flow of U.S. military support to Ukraine. There's no immediate response to requests for comment from the Trump administration. Well, because, I don't know. I would think that they would want to take credit for that because Trump's all about making deals, right? Like, the best trade deal ever. We're going to be China now. We're going to have our own rare earth minerals. Be able to make our own magnets. I don't know how they work. There's some clowns. They said they don't need scientists. It is magic. It's miracles. I don't know if I believe them. But, yeah, whatever. Another official said that the agreement would provide an opportunity for Zelenskyy and Trump to discuss continued military aid to Ukraine. Which I really would like to see the military aid just cut off, and I would love to see us go to a point where we, have peace, because maybe I'm just a bit of a hippie, but, peace is a good thing, I think, right? Like, yeah, Russia sucks, but so do most of our allies, so does most of the world. You gotta just kind of get on with getting on and not make things worse for everybody, right? According to one official, some technical details are still to be ironed out. However, the draft does not include a contentious Trump administration proposal, or... Wait. Didn't it just say... Broad framework includes access, but then it goes on to say that it does not include the proposal that gives us... Oh, it just doesn't give them to us. Okay, so draft doesn't include a contentious administration, Trump admin, can't talk. Administration proposal to give the U.S. $500 billion worth of profits from the rare earth minerals as compensation for its wartime assistance. Instead, the U.S. and Ukraine would have joint ownership of the fund, and Ukraine, oh yeah, reading the article tells me what the article does, imagine that. Ukraine would, in the future, contribute 50% of future proceeds from state-owned resources, including minerals, oil, gas. One official said the deal had better terms and investments, and another one said Kiev secured favorable amendments and viewed the outcome as positive. Well, that's good. It's a deal. This is how negotiations work, and this is how diplomacy is supposed to be conducted. We are supposed to, Trump makes the big ask that Zelenskyy go away and we get all of Ukraine's mineral rights. Zelenskyy comes back with, how about 50% deal? Done. Cool. Like it. Love it. The deal does not include security guarantees. Good. Should never include guarantees. You can't promise the lives of future generations when they're not around to, like, chip in on the discussion. Progress in negotiating the deal comes after Trump and Zelenskyy traded sharp rhetoric last week about their differences over the matter. Zelenskyy said that he balked at the signing of on a deal that U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent pushed during the visit to Kiev. Ukrainian leader objected again days later during a meeting in Munich with J.D. Vance because the American proposal did not include security guarantees. But the two sides made significant progress during a 3-day visit to Ukraine last week, and Trump's special envoy to Ukraine and Russia. The idea initially proposed last fall by Zelenskyy as part of his plan to strengthen Kiev's hand in future negotiations with Moscow. Well, and see, that's good. That puts them in a place where they're able to say, hey, like, U.S. has an interest here now. They're not just, like, giving us stuff. I still don't like the fact... As long as we're not giving troops, as long as we're keeping everything to financial support and we're getting reimbursed for that through profits off of mineral rights and things like that, it's at least a net neutral. The deal that we had, especially while Americans are going hungry, or Hurricane Helene comes through Appalachia, the fires destroy California, and we're just still giving things to Ukraine, it kind of seems like it's a bit of a one-sided deal. Especially when we're pissing off the Russians, because why do we hate Russia again? Like, again, I get that they've got, like, human rights issues and they're not exactly a free country, but Ukraine suspended its elections, Israel bombs Palestinians, Saudi Arabia does Saudi Arabia things, like, nobody's innocent. And we still make deals with China all the time, and look what they do to the Uyghurs. Like, it's not... I don't know where people get this idea that the world is this happy place where everybody just kind of gets along and sings Kumbaya around a campfire. Like, it's... You gotta maybe start from the ideal, but be real about it. Anyway. Second up. Trump suspends security clearances for Jack Smith's outside lawyers in a case of fuck around and find out. President Trump on Tuesday signed a memo suspending security clearances for employees at a law firm who assisted with former special counsel Jack Smith's investigation of the now president. Yeah. White House Staff Secretary Will Scharf said in the Oval Office that the memo targeted Washington, D.C. based law firm Covington and Burling, which provided pro bono legal services to Smith and in his probes of Trump that resulted in 2 criminal indictments that were completely fabricated and bullshit. As a result of those actions, we're now going to be suspending and putting under review security clearances for employees at that firm and holding people responsible. Finally, it is so nice to see bad actors and bad faith given the consequence that it deserves. If you launch into a political witch hunt of a political rival for completely manufactured, take the classified documents case, right? Classification in this country is a sole function of the executive. The president has plenary classification, declassification powers, meaning he can, by the very virtue of discussing information, make it classified or unclassified. That is to say, if he knows a secret and he comes out in front of all the American people and just spills the beans, he doesn't have to sign anything saying so. He doesn't have to ask for permission. He is the chief executive. He decides what is and isn't acceptable for public consumption. And this makes sense if you actually stop to think about it beyond your political persuasion in the matter, because the president is the chief diplomat for the country, right? They are the ones that negotiate with foreign nations and represent us on a world scale, or at least in theory they do. And so during the course of negotiations with a potentially hostile or adversarial nation, if he's trying to do his job and negotiate a deal or conduct diplomacy, he might have access to information that may help the talks of it, but he can't just ask the person mid-sentence if he can go ask for permission to bring up certain information. It has to be on an ad hoc basis when it comes to the chief executive. And so going after him for that it makes good optics in the media. It makes for salacious headlines, but it ignores the fundamental principle of classification as a function of government and the executive branch. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but Trump quipped that they would call the memo Trump quipped that they would call the memo the deranged Jack Smith signing, invoking a pejorative he frequently used to attack the former special counsel. A spokesperson for Covington and Burling did not immediately respond to request for comment. Since taking office, Trump has targeted Smith and those associated with him, decrying investigations into his conduct as weaponization of government. The Justice Department in January fired several prosecutors who worked on Trump's criminal cases, saying they could not trust them. I mean, fair? Like, here... Quick little thought experiment, right? You gain control of... Let's just say you are in a corporate structure. You're you're some ranking board member or whatever, and it's time to change the CEO. So they've got their infrastructure built in, right? They've got their people who do, that are their underlings that they trust. You ascend to that throne and now have the duty of, or you now have the task of making sure that everybody who serves under you is serving your vision for the future of that enterprise, right? And so if there's somebody who's hostile to you left over from a prior administration, and you have the position and privilege to remove them from their place as an obstacle, it makes sense pragmatically, but also it makes sense that you don't want people in an organization going in different directions against the structure of it. You put people into places of power with the understanding that maybe you disagree on process or policy, but you all ultimately agree in the overall desired outcome of betterment. And if you're busy doing these stupid little backbiting political sniping back and forth, you can't really be sure of that. So to say that they're wrong for firing people they can't trust, it doesn't really track, because you should trust the people under you that are doing the legwork of what it is you want done. The move impacted at least a dozen prosecutors who worked both on Trump's election interference case as well as another improperly retaining records at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. Both were brought by Smith. Neither went to trial before Trump won a second term last November. And that's the other one. The election interference case. I can't say one way or another if I believe the election was fair and open or if it was stolen. And the reason for that agnosticism on that topic is not a political one, it is a procedural one. It is one of recognizing that irrespective of my opinion on it, if there is a question as to the security of an election, that needs to be taken seriously all the way through, and the policy needs, and there needs to be a transparent investigation into that from the start to the finish. And in the election interference cases in particular, you had a situation where cases that were brought before judges prior to the election being held were rejected because there were no damages, or the people bringing the case lacked standing because they were either not affected or it would have affected everybody, so it's a wash, which is a stupid reason to not hear a case. But or the ones that were brought afterwards were, well, what would you like us to... There's no relief that can be provided because it would be overturning an election. And so you're left with this circumstance where you can't challenge the results of an election before it happened, but you also can't do it after, and you can't do it during. So when Trump brought those cases, yes, maybe he was out of line to do so. I don't know. Again, it's not my place to say whether or not he was or wasn't. The fact that people had questions and that the cases were not just not heard, but the reaction to it was so vitriolic that they ended up launching an attack against Trump for interference after the fact, for simply trying to investigate and shed light on somewhere where people had questions, really undermines the entire process of it. Because ideally, you want people to be able to trust a democratic process, right? You want people to be able to trust that, win or lose in an election, that there were no shady things going on that gave one side an advantage or stole it, so to speak. And if if an aggrieved party has any evidence, which you're not going to have evidence unless you actually investigate and go to discovery and admit that evidence to a court. And when you reject a case based on standing or based on other procedural grounds and not the actual merits of what is being levied, you don't get actual answers. You get a hand wave, and then persecution after the fact only serves to kind of justify the people asking the questions in the first place. I don't generally like the argument that if you have nothing to fear, you have nothing to hide, when it's pointed at the individual, because the individual has an expectation of privacy from the state, right? We all have Fourth Amendment protections that say, no, unless you have a very narrowly crafted, narrowly tailored, specific warrant looking for evidence of a suspected crime that can be articulated and it has been signed off through a process, fuck off. But no such expectation exists in government from inquiry to the people, or by the people, right? The government needs to be transparent when it comes to requests like that. If there is even so much as a question in somebody's mind, they need to be able to access not just some data, they need to be able to access all of it and look at it and review it and make sure that everything is on the up and up. And if there's discrepancies, if there are other issues within that, it needs to be heard where there is an agreed upon, objective, fact-finding body, i.e. a court, and everything can be measured and argued there. And again, all for the public record and for the public benefit and for the continued trust and stability of the system that is wielding power over the population. Because, if you war game it out, right? The courts hear this trial out. Trump's wrong. What happens? Nothing. The investigation ran its course. Evidence was admitted. Arguments were held. It was adjudicated. Process was followed. Nobody can complain at that point as far as not having been heard, as far as not being given their due process, which is all that was being asked for. But when and sure, is it messy if it's found that there was interference and that, oh wow, maybe the results were wrong and we just, like, is it messy if that happens? Sure. But guess what? That's what the judges are there for. They are placed in those positions and vested with that authority not because they are allies of a certain political ideology or outlook. They are put in those positions because at the end of the day, regardless of their own biases or allegiances to ideology, they have a sense of duty and justice to be those objective arbiters that make the hard decisions that nobody else can. Anyway, that's my rant on all of that. So, yeah. Fucking made coffee and all the grounds ended up under the basket and in the pot. I'm like, Next story. This one's fun. Judge extends block on Trump administration's freeze on federal funding. Federal judges agreed to continue blocking President Donald Trump's administration from freezing grants and loans potentially totaling trillions of dollars. This right here is a clear example of a judge telling the executive, this is a violation of separation of powers. Plain and simple. Oh wow, look at that. DC judge. Imagine that. Federal judge agreed Tuesday to continue blocking President Donald Trump's administration from freezing grants and loans potentially totaling trillions of dollars. The U.S. District Judge Lauren Ali Khan in Washington, D.C. has issued a preliminary injunction requested by groups representing thousands of nonprofits and small businesses. It's the first such order since Trump administration announced sweeping pause on federal aid, stirring up a wave of confusion and anxiety across the U.S. So if the judge, I'm not necessarily against them issuing injunctions on this, but what I am against them doing is doing so where they have not done, there is no stake to the people asking for the injunction. Right here it even says, potentially totaling trillions of dollars. So let's say these groups are completely wrong, the injunction is found to be in itself to be a violation, and Trump wins in court on this when the chips fall. Well, the people bringing the case aren't out anything, but the federal government and therefore the taxpayer are out all of this money that got spent in the meantime, and with really no recourse to reclaim it. However, there is a rule, especially in civil proceedings, where prior to issuing an injunction like this, they could require a bond put up by the people bringing the claim, so that is, these small businesses and nonprofits could pool their resources, and it would be easy to calculate because they're asking for certain amounts of money. So prior to issuing the injunction, the judge could they should say, okay, we'll issue this, but in order to do that, if you lose in court or this injunction is wrong, there needs to be recourse. So what we're going to do is take what you expect to, or what you would gain out of this by the funding continue, we're going to hold that in an escrow account aside so that if you lose and you end up owing all of this back or end up getting paid when you really shouldn't have, the money's already there to be recouped and paid back. Right? Like, that makes sense. Because then all of a sudden you don't have people just bringing cases here and there with no basis for anything and just judge shopping like has been going on. And furthermore, all of these bodies that are spending this money are under executive purview. This is discretionary funding, this is discretionary spending, and they have the complete and total fucking right to say, no, we're not going to do it. And another thing, people are circulating this thing about Doge lying about numbers, inflating the amount of money that's being saved. Well, have you ever stopped and thought that Doge doesn't make cuts, right? Doge issues suggestions, Trump signs off on them or doesn't, and then the funding gets cut. There's a process there. But if Doge submits it, Trump signs off on it, that's a win for Doge. They consider it saved. If later the judge comes through and injuncts it, starts the funding over, well, now you have a problem because Doge's accounting of it shows that it was approved and everything, so they have one set of numbers. The actuality of it, though, is that it's a contract, maybe it's a contract, and reaching the end of its terms, and this is like a final payment on it or something. And so you have this situation where you're not able to square it, and then that casts aspersions on this body of Doge because people don't understand what's actually at play with it. My 2 cents on that. The judge said the administration cannot pretend the nationwide chaos and paralysis from 2 weeks ago is some distant memory with no bearing on the case. No, we know exactly what it is. You're overstepping. Stop legislating from the bench, you dumb fucking twat. The relief plaintiffs now seek is more durable version of the relief they sought then when their members were on the brink of extinction. They should be extinct. If you cannot survive without suckling at the teat of government, go away. It is not the duty of us to fund your stupid little gender studies in Pakistan projects. Like, fuck off. And some plaintiffs have marshaled significant evidence. No, they haven't. You can't say that they... Indicating the funding freeze would be economically catastrophic. That's not... See, in order for an injunction to be valid, the damages have to be something that cannot be made whole without the injunction. The damages here are financial. Trump cuts the spending, case goes on, Trump loses, okay, government has to pay up, they pay it all back. Nobody's out anything. It's not like there's a loss of life that hangs in the balance here. It's not like the funding being cut is going to deny people something that they don't, or that they already have. And so this is bullshit. It's not fatal. Cite your fucking source, please. The administration rescinded a memo outlining its planned funding freeze after the same judge blocked it earlier this month when it was over. Second judge in Rhode Island also issued a temporary restraining order blocking any pause in federal spending in a separate lawsuit. And this is the other part. Why is it okay for the tiniest state in the nation to issue a temporary restraining order that grinds at the will of the entire country to a halt? No. Fuck you. Like, that's like saying that because you're trying to figure out if your roommate drank the last beer in the fridge or not, we're gonna stop everybody in the entire state from being able to open their fridges until this case is solved. Like, you're fucking stupid. Sorry, I can't put it any more bluntly than that. This is clearly political. This is clearly overstepping their bounds. And what would be really fun to see is Chief Justice Roberts make the fucking just moose dick move of dissolving all federal judicial branches and restoring and just basically doing a factory reset of the federal judiciary. Because guess what? The Constitution provides for one thing, and that is a federal judge. There is a, like, it, I don't know I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. I watch some people that are a lot smarter than me talk about this on the internet. But the Constitution provides for it doesn't provide for all of these individual bodies, benches, whatever. It provides for a single court. Chief Justice Roberts could come out and say, we are terminating everything from to where he is the sole judiciary at that point, right? And then reestablish it from there. That would be fucking amazing to watch. Would it ever happen? No. Would it be fought in court for decades to come? Probably. But oh my god. The scaffolding is there to try it. Last month, the White House said it would temporarily halt federal funding to ensure that payments complied with Trump's agenda. As they should. Government lawyers argued that court lacks the constitutional authority to back or block a funding pause. They do. Organizations represented the advocacy group Democracy Forward argued that funding freeze violates their First Amendment rights. Okay. By that logic, the government not giving me $1 million paycheck every day violates my First Amendment rights. Who are they to deny me my right to freely express myself? We agree under Citizens United that money equals speech. And therefore, if I want to speak through $1 million, that is my right. And the government not giving me that money with no questions asked is a restriction on my right to do so. Do you see how fucking stupid that sounds? Some groups initially said they couldn't access promised federal funding even after the memo was rescinded. During the hearing last Thursday, however, plaintiff's attorney Kevin Friedel said the earlier temporary restraining order has shown its value. What do you want? I don't want to hear those beeping right now. Justice Department Attorney Daniel Schwei argued against the preliminary injunction, said it's inherently speculative proposition and the administration might try again freezing the funding. Do it. I want to see the judge enforce it. Like, you will start paying them again. No, I won't. Yes, you will. No, I won't. Yes, you will. Make me. Like, what are you going to do? Like, right... Again, I just point you to this one. This one right here just says it all. A funding freeze violates their First Amendment rights. Like, by that logic, an age requirement on Social Security violates my First Amendment rights. A requirement that I am attending an accredited post-secondary educational institution violates my in order to receive federal grant money violates my First Amendment rights. Like, I'm going to have to dig that up and find the exact argument that they make there, because that is just the most pants-on-head retarded thing I think I've ever read. And I've read some really fucking retarded shit. God damn. U.S. judge blocks Trump's indefinite suspension of refugee resettlement program. It's like, no, you will not do what you were elected to do, even though it is well within your rights and powers to do. Huh? Federal judge on Tuesday blocked President Donald Trump's effort to indefinitely suspend U.S. refugee resettlement program, saying Republican had exceeded his executive authority by abruptly shutting down the program. Well, you can shut it down, but you have to do so how we tell you to, if you're going to. And once again, you have a single politically captured, Seattle, Washington, single politically captured body holding the rest of the country hostage because they don't like Mr. Mango Mussolini. They don't like Orange Man. They don't like El Presidente Manos Grandes. Like, miss me with this bullshit. We started by trying to play nice. We started by, okay, you want to play fuck games, fine. But even when proven wrong, even when it gets overruled, even when they lose, they relaunch the same thing, the executive at this point, you know what? Like, they're trying to push justification for less than savory tactics to start applying. Let's just say that seems to be where they're trying to push this. And you know what? Let them. Let the judges issue these. But let them enforce them. I want to see the executive just say, you know what? No, we're not playing these stupid fucking games anymore. We're not going to let a single activist judge hold the rest of the country hostage when they ultimately end up getting proven wrong. Like, come at me. That authority, let's see. So, U.S. District Judge Jamal Whitehead in Seattle, in a ruling for a coalition of USG refugee backers who sued to challenge Trump's action, acknowledged that the president had substantial discretion under federal law to suspend refugee admissions. He has substantial discretion under federal law to suspend refugee admissions, admitted by the district judge. But not absolute. Not absolute discretion, just substantial? To what degree are you saying that should be limited? By what action should you say that would be limited? But that authority is not limitless, he said during a court hearing. I cannot ignore Congress's detailed framework for refugee admissions and the limits it places on the president's ability to suspend the same. Suspending the refugee resettlement program does not undermine all the other existing framework. It says this one particularly narrowly focused band is wrong. We're shutting this one down. If they would like to go through the existing legal process that is still going to exist, notwithstanding, they're within their rights. The judge and appointee of Joe Biden said a preliminary injunction was warranted to give likelihood of irreparable harms, including refugees stranded after selling their possessions. Why is that the U.S.'s problem? These are not our citizens. These are not people that are taxpayers or have any expectation of protections under our laws. It would be nice if we could help them, but there are other ways that they can do this. There are other ways they can come into this, and you can't just, oh, well, they would be sad. Fuck off. Agencies laying off hundreds of staff, family reunification suspended indefinitely. Like, Trump, a Republican, really should be Trump, a populist, immediately paused. He didn't even cancel it. He paused it after taking office on January 20th, saying the program must ensure refugees admitted to the U.S. appropriately assimilate and that the taxpayer resources are not wasted. Is that not substantial discretion? He's not canceling it out, right? He's not saying we'll never revisit this. He's not saying they can't even come. He's saying if they are going to, follow our laws and don't be a drain on resources. That's over the line. Like, he called for the Secretaries of Homeland Security and State to submit a report within 90 days, plan of action, to determine if it should be restarted. No, we can't wait 90 days, no! Like, I want to see the executive say, make me. We're going to wait. If you have a problem with that, tough titty. Get over yourself. The sudden shutdown meant refugees across the globe had their scheduled travel to the U.S. canceled. Oh no! So are we going to issue injunctions against the weather when it shuts down their travel? Do you realize how fucking retarded you sound in defending this shit? Including 1,660 Afghans cleared to resettle. They have been cleared. We're just gonna make sure all the T's are dotted and all the I's are crossed and everything's in order. Days later, funds for U.S. groups that assist refugees already in country were frozen as part of a larger pause on foreign aid. That is dubious at best, because the freeze was not on foreign aid, the freeze was on U.S. aid, which is not the same. And it very specifically said people in country and with mission critical roles were not affected. The lawsuit was brought by 9 refugees and U.S.-based family members, including a family from the Democratic Republic of the Congo that was approved to travel to the U.S. on January 22nd, but had their travel canceled. Oh no! We're going to have to get different tickets! Oh no, we're going to have to stay in the embassy a little longer! Shut the fuck up, you namby-pamby little bitches! You little bitches! This instant gratification culture bullshit has gone too far. The family, which resides in Nairobi, sold all their belongings except for what could fit in their checked luggage and gave up the lease on their home, the complaint said. Oh no! They're disabled and cold veterans sleeping under bridges all over this country. They don't have any belongings, whether or not they could fit in checked luggage. They don't have any leases. They don't have anywhere to turn. But fuck them, right? Because these little Nairobi crybabies want to fucking bitch about, oh no, we had to fucking cancel our lease and come here. Fuck you. Fuck you with something hard and sandpapery. Like I said, it's all words. The judges can issue ruling after ruling, injunction after injunction, but without any machinery by which to impose that will, it's just words. The same as any law. I can right now, watch, here, bring up a notepad. I can right now type up, the UN must recognize Kyle Barton, aka the redneck hipster, as supreme monarch of the planet and give him any and all monies and demands for prima nocte he makes without question. This is binding. I mean it, guys. You'd better listen or I'll be mad. I'm not magically king of the world just for typing something, just for saying something. Without the power to enforce my will or to impose my will, it's just words. The Constitution, at the end of the day, without the will of the people to hold our elected representatives to account for and to restrain them to what is laid out there, is just words. These injunctions, without threat of force or machinery to impose them, are just words. The constructivists, the social justice warriors, the cultural Marxists get one thing right. Everything is a social construct. Everything is ultimately relative in the sense that the reason it has meaning, power, value, is because we agree it does. To one degree or another. That at the end of the day, there is a degree of the rule of jungle that applies. But at the same time, when we've got rules laid out and you start losing, you don't get to change them. You don't get to change the meaning after we've agreed on the definition. You don't get to change the terms after the ship has set sail. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. But I'm king of the world now, and if I want first night with any woman prior to her husband, I have a binding resolution here. I typed it up on Notepad and everything for the whole world to see. The UN has to give me whatever I demand, all money, at any time. Or I'm going to be really mad, I swear you guys. They'd better listen. Like, fucking stupid. And now in some fun news. Drug smuggler arrested for hiding 200 grams of cocaine under his toupee. He should have hid it in the prison wallet. Colombian police have released hair-raising footage of airport officers cutting away a passenger's toupee to reveal 19 packages of cocaine hidden beneath his wig. Why it matters. The incident comes amid an international war on drugs, and new President Donald Trump has vowed to tackle the flow of illegal substances into the U.S. Hold on. I promise there's nothing under my hat. Nothing under my hat at all. What are you doing? Leave my hat alone. Fucking what the fuck? That had to have been, like... This is why you don't get high on your own supply. Like, what the fuck? Drugs have been ravaging American communities for years, and cities such as San Francisco have been gripped by the crisis in recent years. With some workers urged to work remotely due to fear of crime. Solve the crime problem? No, just stay in your house and fucking work from there. New York City toddler died after being exposed to fentanyl. Oh, that's sad. At a Bronx daycare facility. You know what would have prevented him from being exposed to fentanyl? Drugs being legal. Colombian police say apprehension of a wig suspect. He wigged out. And the seizure of cocaine has struck a significant blow against the trade dealers and smugglers. Smuggler who was trying to board a flight to Europe was arrested at Rafael Núñez International Airport in Cartagena after a body scan alerted officials something was concealed in his hair. 40-year-old had been planning to fly to the Netherlands, but airport police used scissors to snip away his scalp and reveal the packets of white powder glued to the underside of an alleged narco wig. Powder tested positive for cocaine. Police said, adding that 220 grams, that's like personal use. 8 ounces would have equated to 400 doses and had a street value of 10,000 euros, around 10,000 bucks. Suspect was promptly arrested on a string of drug charges. Colombian newspaper La Opinión showed footage of the discovery on X, formerly Twitter. Stop dead naming it. The suspect, who had not been named, sat passively but covered his eyes with a hand as the officer cut the synthetic hair, which appeared to have been glued to an area of shaved scalp and his real hair. Video can be viewed below. He should have used the prison wallet. He should have put them in balloons or condoms and tied them up and swallowed them like they did in the old days. Man from the city of Pereira area? I am not the Mexican. I don't speak either Spanish. Appeared to be distressed as he covers his mouth and occasionally his eyes as the officer performed cocaine testing in front of him. He watched in silence as the chemical believed to be cobalt thiocyanate turned an electric blue color as a substance was applied to the screening swab. He was subsequently arrested on suspicion of trafficking. He has 2 previous records for drug trafficking offenses, police said in their statement. During controls carried out by the national police during boarding of national and international flights, units of the anti-narcotics police caught Colombian citizen red-handed who was trying to board a flight to Amsterdam with cocaine capsules camouflaged in his wig. Thanks to expertise of national police officers through surveillance and passenger profiling, a person from the city of from Colombia was arrested, and 19 cocaine capsules were seized, camouflaged in a wig that the individual was wearing. Important result has affected criminal finances and prevented the sale of more than 400 doses of cocaine valued at more than $10,000. That's really fucking small time for a bust. It's not the first time drug smugglers have tried to transport cocaine in hair pieces, and here's another case of it. Figured it was a funny enough headline, and everything else was kind of heavy on this one, so I wanted to. And I promise you, there's no cocaine in my hair. I'm not this Colombian guy or Nick Rekieta's little kid. That's a fucked up joke. Still got sunspots. There's the big. This was another one. This one was late hours of yesterday. Check that out. Look at that. Bam! So get out of here. Though the flare was partially eclipsed by the edge of the sun, it still registered NOAA satellites as a fucking M3.9. That is large. Probably X-class. I wouldn't take that bet. Radio blackout from it. Jeez. And that's going to be that for that. Probably hop on in a little bit and play some video games, but until then, like, comment, subscribe, share, call me a retard, buy me a coffee, or don't. I don't care.